Hi, and welcome to what is definitely not going to be a short video. So I, like many people, watched with rapt interest Kayla talk about her Enneagram type and the different books that she was recommended based on it, and watched her sort of like books and not like books and talk about why maybe she liked certain books and didn't like others. And I waited just with so much interest to see what she recommended for my type. For the sake of this video, my type, my Enneagram type, is a type 4 wing 5. I have looked up much information about this type, and I have scattered it throughout the video, so I'm not going to go into a lot of the actual Enneagram specifics here. I will link the websites that I used to look up information while I was reviewing the books, but suffice to say, I only had to read 50% of the books that she recommended, and it is interesting now, as I record this at the end of this journey, seeing how it broke down as far as what I liked and disliked. So before we actually talk about the two books that I read, let's talk about the two books that I had read already, Frankenstein and The Night Circus. So Kayla's recommendations for Type 4 were Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, Wilder Girls by Roy Power, and The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I read The Night Circus way back when it first came out. Before I knew BookTube was a thing, before I knew that this book was going to become massively hyped, I saw a book with a circus on the cover that was red, white, and black, and I thought it looked great. I absorbed that book over the course of a weekend on a beach trip. I hate guys with loud trucks. I thought it was good. I do believe on Goodreads I have rated this a 3, if I've rated it at all. A lot of the books that I read prior to getting into actually keeping track of my read books back in 2018 don't have ratings, just because I'm not going to go back and do that. Like, I'm just not going to do it. So I have a copy of The Night Circus. I still own it. I have considered rereading this many times because I don't know if I like it more now or like it less. Because it's basically a 3-star, it means that I enjoy the experience of reading it, but it's not something I'm looking forward to picking up again. It also means it's something I will recommend if I think that it will fit your interest, but it's not exactly a favorite. The Night Circus, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, is about two basically warring magicians who are trained up by these other two magicians who have very different views on how you should train magicians. And they have this contest that has been going on for so long. And finally, it's these two that are at the center of it. And there's this aspect to the Night Circus where when you train so hard and so long to view someone else as an enemy, doesn't that also kind of form its own weird relationship with them? I will say that even though Celia and Marco are the two leads in this, I was much more compelled by one of the other characters in the book. I really liked the story with the little boy and the twins. I can't remember a lot. Again, this has been like over a decade since I've read this, but there's one of the characters who is a past winner of the project, and I know I'm going to say her name wrong if I can't look at it, and she and her story were more compelling to me, and she just told it as like a flashback, and I was like, I want to hear that one. So I think that was my main issue with Night Circus, is that the side characters and the sort of B plots were more interesting to me than the A plot. And you think I'd like the A plot. I love enemies to lovers, but it didn't quite do it for me in this book. So this one got a lower rating. It got like a 3. Frankenstein, however, do I like Frankenstein? I don't know, man. I own 4 copies of this book, including the one that she literally used the cover of in the recommendations, and that I very heavily annotated when I was reading it for my literature class. I love this book. I can't wait to teach it to students one day. It's such a good, like, entrance to horror, because it's not like graphic horror. It's sort of this existential dread, and it roots around the idea of not knowing your identity and not having one, and what that can do to a person. You see Victor at the like height of hubris creating a human, because sure, why not? I have the talents to do it. Why not play God? But then he chickens out at the last minute and won't even acknowledge his creation. And you see how that wrecks the creation. But there's also this sort of like exploration of like, is our identity just the meta content we consume, because Frankenstein's creature, if you only know him from like Universal monster movies and stuff, is incredibly smart, and he is incredibly articulate, and he is not here to play around, and it is because he is well read. It is because he has consumed media and because he has watched others. And so Frankenstein's creature is literally just an amalgam of the things he has absorbed as far as pop culture and literature. And it just, as a literature student, this is just so good. This is so good to read and just pore over. And I cannot believe Mary Shelley wrote this at 18 years old when like quarantined in a house. Like, this is fascinating and faceted, and it's worth exploring. And so yes, this is a 5-star. This was on my favorites already. I love this book. It was validating to see that on the list, and that was part of why I trusted the list, is because I saw this one and I know I love it so much. So I'm really, I've read the books, right? Like, I've read the other 2 books now. At the point where you're watching this, I have read We Are Okay, and I have read Wilder Girls, the only 2 books on this that I haven't read already. And I'm going to set the stage for you a couple weeks ago when I first started this journey, and it was, okay, so out of the 50% of this list I've read, out of that 50%, I liked 50%. I liked 25% of the books solidly. A 25% could take or leave. So where do these hang out at? You can tell I'm not a math major too. There's no way those percentages work out. So just like bear with me. But knowing I loved Frankenstein that much, and knowing that I at least appreciated Night Circus, I was really interested to see whether these 2 books, We Are Okay, which is a YA contemporary, and Wilder Girls, which is a YA like horror novel, how they fit into what I thought I was going to like. So we keep in mind that I really love Frankenstein, a horror novel about identity and about, people doing kind of shady things and getting away with it. It's got an interesting framed novel aspect. And how much I didn't really care about Night Circus, which is a fantasy, and it also has kind of a framed narrative, but the B plot was more interesting. It was interesting to me to see how knowing that affected whether I liked the other 2 books. So without going into detail about type 4s, because again, I'm going to do that specifically as I talk about these books, let's look at how I reacted and read the 2 remaining books on this list, which is Wilder Girls by Rory Power and We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. So the first book I'm going to read in this, I guess it's a challenge, the self-imposed challenge, is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. I have it up on my Goodreads now. The synopsis on Goodreads says, you go through life thinking there's so much you need until you leave only your phone, your wallet, and a picture of your mother. Marion hasn't spoken to anyone from her old life since the day she left everything behind. No one knows the truth about those final weeks, not even her best friend Mabel. But even thousands of miles away from the California coast at college in New York, Marion still feels the pull of life and tragedy she's tried to outrun. Now, months later, alone in an empty dorm for winter break, Marion waits. Mabel is coming to visit, and Marion will be able to face everything that's been left unsaid and finally confront the loneliness that has made a home in her heart. Wow, I cannot speak this morning. I am questioning whether I'm going to like this. It is no secret, if you've been around here for a while, that I'm not the biggest fan of YA contemporary, or even like hard-hitting-ish YA contemporary. And that being said, I do have some favorites that are YA contemporary. I can't believe my own nonsense. But I can see why this got suggested. It's funny, I have actually seen this recommended for me before. I don't know if it's like books for Pisces or books for INTJs or whatever other thing that I'm identifying as. But I've definitely seen this book recommended before. And in fact, let's look at the books that are recommended on Goodreads as readers also enjoyed and see which of those books are either in my favorites or I know that I kind of liked. Okay, the very first book on this list of like recommended because you know other Goodreads readers liked it is Radio Silence, and that is on my favorites list. I loved Radio Silence. I just read it back in January and I thought it was beautiful. So I gave that one a 5 stars, so that makes sense. The Falling in Love Montage, haven't read it, but it's on my TBR. Annie on My Mind, haven't read it. They both die at the end. Aristotle and Dante is on it. Oh, Wilder Girls by Rory Power is the very next one. Okay, Heartstopper, I've been meaning to read that one. Felix Ever After, I haven't read it yet. The Poet X, I love Elizabeth Acevedo, so that's one of the ones I haven't read. The Henna Wars, The Miseducation of Cameron Post, You Should See Me in a Crown, love that one. I Wish You All the Best, another Heartstopper. Her Royal Highness, We Are the Ants, If I Was Your Girl, Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. I always read that as Laura Dern Keeps Breaking Up With Me, and like, Her Name in the Sky, With the Fire on High, I love that one. History Is All You Left Me, Loveless, the other Heartstopper, Clap When You Land. I really need to read the rest of Elizabeth Acevedo's stuff. Sadie, loved Sadie. Solitaire, What If It's Us, Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I haven't read, Cemetery Boys, which was amazing, and Autobiography. So I'm sensing a theme, and I did see on Goodreads where it is tagged as YA Contemporary, LGBT, health, mental health, realistic fiction, and young adult contemporary romance. I try not to read the genres if I can help it because I don't want that to accidentally give something away, but it does feel like this book is going to tackle LGBT issues. I think it's one of the things I really liked about Radio Silence was the open discussion about finding yourself. A lot of the books that I have read that were on that recommended list were also books that tackled finding out who you are and being okay with yourself and having other people accept you for that other self. And I think that's a very type 4 thing. You know, that the type 4 need to not people please, but have people understand you as a person so you can make an impact in society. So maybe I like this. I think this one's going to be a 50-50. I think that as much as I really, really love the books on that You May Also Like list that I have read, there are some that I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm reading this one first because, full disclosure, the library had it available immediately as an audiobook, so I'm going to listen to it on my drive to and from work this week, and I should be able to finish it this week. And again, I'm just interested to see if it's going to hit that spot for YA contemporary for me, or if it's going to just, sometimes it can seem too immature, and maybe that's because I'm like almost 30 years old. I don't know. Interestingly enough, this has been read by Kayla from Booksandlala, and she gave it a 3. So, interesting. That's one aspect that I'm probably going to talk about many times and forget that I mentioned in different clips, that Kayla's statistics at the end of her page said that the two types that read the most similar were type 4 and type 8. And I understand that. I'll go into it, maybe more later, but I'm very interested in the 8 recommendations as well as a hint. But I do find myself liking a lot of the books that Kayla suggests, and a lot of her favorites that I've read are also my favorites. So I trust her opinions a lot of the time. And if she says this is a 3, I'm trying not to let that influence me, but that gives me a feeling that this is going to be more of a mediocre read for me and not like a new 5-star. But I could be surprised. And at the very least, I hope this is a new book that I can introduce to my students one day, maybe. I like to have YA contemporary to be able to show them different stories. Wait, there's a character named Samantha? I love when that happens. I hope she's not a bitch. Okay. Oh my God. Those kids deserve awards for having those on all day. I don't. This is absolutely the weirdest semester. I'm done with class for the day, I'm done teaching for the day. I headed home. I have a class at 5, so I'm going to put We Are Okay back on audiobook to listen to for my 30-minute drive home, and I'll probably just listen to it until class while I'm making dinner, because it's actually really good. I don't know with these kind of things how much I enjoy something because I'm being told to enjoy it. So I'm trying to be really objective when I listen to it, but I am really enjoying so far the storyline and what's going on, and it's very quick. It's a short little audiobook, which is why I decided to listen to it this week, because I could finish it in a week. I think I'm a little over halfway through right now, so I should finish it by this weekend, and then I can start the next book in this sort of mini challenge to myself. But anyway, let me get started because it's actually surprisingly hot today and I need to get the air going in this car. So I'm actually going to go inside and film
my reaction to We Are Okay, because I finished it on the way home. I did cry a little bit. Did get me. And I have some thoughts about the connection between type 4 personality and enjoying that book versus being told other people enjoy that book and me enjoying that book. Like, would I have liked that if I picked it up on my own? But I don't think I would have picked it up if I was on my own. Like I said, I don't read a lot of YA contemporary, but when I do, I tend to get harder hitting topics and like it. I am going to speak later. I'm just trying to get these thoughts out because I came across this realization while I was on the way here. I'm also listening to Firekeeper's Daughter, which hasn't come out yet, but Libro FM had it out already. So I was listening to that before I started We Are Okay, so I put that back on after I finished. I'm reading and consuming a lot of media about grief right now. I know there was like discourse on Twitter with the WandaVision stuff with that quote about grief persevering, and not grief persevering, love persevering, and like grief and whatever. And I've really enjoyed WandaVision. I'm a huge Marvel fan, so I've been enjoying it. And I don't know, that it really did resonate, and it sounds so cliche, but I think it's also because all the rest of the media that I'm consuming right now deals with grief and loss and how you continue to go on from that. And I'm just, what am I subconsciously doing? What's happening here? So there's some stuff to unpack about myself, I think, soon, but that's not needed for this video, which is specifically about Enneagrams.
So I finished We Are Okay. I was not okay. I did cry for like the last chapter of the book. It was very emotional. I'm not going to talk about the details of either of the books that I'm reading for this challenge because I want people to be able to just seek them out. But I looked up type 4 personality, like basic things, and to try to understand like why I like the book and why I think the book resonates with type 4s. So type 4s in brief, like the very first thing I found, their basic fear is that they have no identity or personal significance. Their basic desire is to find themselves and their significance or to create an identity. And the 4 with a 5 wing, which is me, is the bohemian. So that's my full thing is a 4 into 5. I think that this book works for that, and this book, along with the ones that were recommended to me that I would also like or that I knew I liked from having read them previously, it does deal with finding yourself after a personal tragedy. The main character deals with oh my God, so many tragedies in her life leading up to even the events of the novel, and just sort of her in this free fall of non-existence where she doesn't know that she's the same person anymore. And that is a really beautiful conversation too toward the end of the novel about like, what if I'm not that person? Can grief and trauma change you fundamentally as an individual, and what does that mean about your place in the world? Also, this idea of your identity being linked to places or people, and when you lose those places and people, or they aren't exactly what you thought they were, did you lose some of yourself? I resonated with this because, not that a family member did what her family member did in this book, but when I went through situations where my a family member was an addict, it feels like a part of your identity is gone because they are different. And you realize how much of yourself is made up of other people and the people around you. And it just kind of, I think that's what I got out of it. I'm probably going to give this a 4.5 because I did find it a really delightful, quick YA contemporary that dealt with some really harsh issues. I thought there were parts of it that were cute. It only doesn't have a perfect 5 because the implications of the ending are a little bit weird for me, given the romance that we recovered from pretty much throughout the length of the novel. People who've read it before, like, I would love to know your thoughts on if you think that's cool or not. It feels kind of weird to me. It was beautiful. I was moved and I cried, but it feels weird, given the circumstances. But anyway, I'm probably going to give it 4.5. Let's look at the other book that I have for the type 4 recommendations that I have not read, and that is Rory Power's Wilder Girls. So I actually own a copy of Wilder Girls, and it is doing this weird disintegrating thing where the textured part of the cover is coming off, and I think that's fitting given the apparently like horror aspect of this. I'm going to read you the synopsis in case you haven't heard it. This was really popular last year. Not last year. Oh my God, 2019. Yeah, 2019. 2019. It came out in July of 2019, and people like loved this. They loved this book. The people who like horror liked it. So here's the synopsis really quick. It's been 18 months since the Raxter School for Girls was put under quarantine. Oh God. Since the tox hit and pulled Hetty's life out from under her. It started slow. First the teachers died one by one. Then it began to infect the students, turning their bodies strange and foreign. Now, cut off from the rest of the world and left to fend for it themselves on their island home, the girls don't dare wander outside the school's fence where the tox has made the woods wild and dangerous. They wait for the cure they were promised as the tox seeps into everything. But when Bayek goes missing, Hetty will do anything to find her, even if it means breaking quarantine and braving the horrors that lie beyond the fence. And when she does, Hetty learns that there's more to their story, to their life at Raxter, than she'd ever have thought true. I'm intrigued. I mean, I certainly am down for horror. It's funny that there isn't Stephen King on Type 4, because I was solidly holding that down for that community. Most of my favorites are Stephen King novels. But I do think that's an interesting concept, and I don't know if I'll talk about it in like my intro or if I just need to talk about it now. The aspect of identity and horror and kind of the intersection of that with Type 4's books, because Frankenstein is very much horror with like this search for identity. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself and showing my English major pretty aggressively. But anyway, I am really intrigued by this. And speaking of English major, I did not realize it quotes like Gerard Manley Hopkins. One of my favorite poems by him, Pied Beauty. And this is the very end. All things counter, original, spare, and strange. Was it he loves best that, oh, I can't remember the whole thing, but I do know it starts, glory be to God for dappled things. And I think about that when I see my son, Nimoy, because he is brindled and beautiful and perfect in every little weird way. So I'm very interested to read this. Let's look at the books that readers also enjoyed and see if I have any other favorites that are on that list. And I think that is also going to be telling. So we've got Sawkill Girls, Cinderella is Dead, The Grace Year, which I've been meaning to read. Girls on the Verge, Crier's War, did read that, gave it 3 stars. It was decent. I guess I need to pick up the second one at some point. Well Met, gave that 4 stars. I really enjoyed that. That is random to see up here. You Should See Me in a Crown is on this list too. The Downstairs Girl, How It Feels to Float, Fix Her Up. The romance options in here is very interesting to me. 5 Dark Fates, which is a 3 Dark Crowns novel. Lady Rogue, Gods of Jade and Shadow, which is on my TBR. The Grief Keeper, Dark Dawn from Nevernight. Recursion, Bunny, which is on my TBR. Daisy Jones and the Six. I did really enjoy that one, gave it 4 stars. These Witches Don't Burn, and Cemetery Boys again. So not many new books that we didn't cover when I looked at We Are Okay. And I'm wondering if that has anything to do with the recommendations in Type 4s too. Like if these are more books that would appeal to Type 4s. I don't do statistics in my head well enough to think about that. But anyway, I'm going to read Wilder Girls over the weekend. I'm also reading A Wrinkle in Time for the Buzzwordathon, so it'll be kind of switched between those two and Firekeeper's Daughter on audio while I clean. But I am really looking forward to that, seeing if it's worth all the hype. Again, will I be inspired to like it better because someone told me I'd like it, like it's for my type? I have questions when that kind of stuff happens. I mean, and I liked We Are Okay, but it's more of a self-reflective thing now too. Is like, am I just liking it because someone told me to? Is this in my way people pleasing? I guess we're gonna find out. So I've had a relaxing night home alone, and I have been able to get some reading done on Wilder Girls. Here, I always take the jacket off of my hardcovers. I don't like reading with the jacket on. And it's not that I don't like it. It's just been very hard for me to get into, which was shocking to me. I'm on page 133. And things are just starting to sort of be interesting to me. We're almost halfway through the book, so this has taken a while. I don't know about my thoughts yet. I don't really have any. The body horror isn't quite as graphic as everyone was making it out to be, but maybe I've just read some really messed up stuff. I don't know. But I mean, I am intrigued, and I'm again at about halfway through. yeah, I want to know the ending, but it was last night starting this was a slog. I was really struggling to care enough to read it. So hopefully it'll get better from here. The pace will kind of quicken up and I can finish this tomorrow so I can sort of wrap up my thoughts on this mini challenge. So you know how I mistakenly said that there wasn't really a lot of body horror in this last night? Well, I'm about 200 pages in. I take it back. Wow. Ew. Um. Yeah. Okay. I mean, anyway, I'm gonna keep reading because kind of, wow. All right. Yep, it sure did happen. Things I haven't done. Filmed an intro. Talked about the 2 books I've read. Filmed an outro. Read the book. I promise I'm gonna finish it today. I just have so much to do. And I have meetings and grading, and I have to work on my big assessment for teaching. And I really need to do all that between the hours of like 8 and 3:15. So I can't just read for fun. I'm going to take like an hour for lunch, but the rest of the time I need to spend on my teaching stuff. And I really want to finish it, but here's my thing, and this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous, but I promise you this is a problem I have. All of these characters in this book have names with 2 letters, and I am utterly confused as to who people are. I know the lead is Hetty, and okay, you see her name written down. It's a POV. What is it? It's with a B, and you want to say Betty, but it's not Betty because the other one is Hetty. It's Byatt. It's Byatt. It's 2 T's. It's 2 T's on both of them. And Reese. And so in my brain, it keeps being like Retta and Betty, and I'm just, why Rory? Why do they all have the 2? There's probably a literary reason why, but my brain does not process like names very well, and they're all getting shuffled around. And she doesn't waste a lot of time talking about how these girls look, which I can appreciate. It is more about what they're doing and how they're experiencing their emotions, but I need to have a physical latch onto these names. I need to know what they look like. And I know what you're saying, like to yourself watching this. You're saying, Samantha, Reese literally has like a scaled hand and glowing hair. How do you get her confused with the other 2? I I really wish I could make you understand, but it's because I'm not constantly being reminded that she is a different person than Hetty or Byatt. See, I almost said Hyatt. I'm just completely screwed with this, and I'm almost like halfway through, and this is still happening to me, that I'm like, I don't remember this character's name. I'm gonna finish it today. I really am. I'm disappointed in myself for not liking it more than I am, and for getting so caught up in being confused that I'm not enjoying it. But maybe it'll surprise me, and like the very last 2 chapters will knock my socks off. I won't know because I can't read it till this afternoon. But I am going to finish it today, and I am going to put the video together today, but it's probably not going to be posted till tomorrow because I'm very tired and it will be very late. People are cutting grass today because it's so nice outside, so I just know you're not going to be able to hear me, and there's leaves. And so my son is going to come walk all over those and be loud. But it's beautiful today, so we're outside, obviously. I finished it. I have complex feelings about this, and I don't know if I can root any of the things that I feel into, like, how this relates to my Enneagram. I think it's going to be a 3-star because it was good, right? Like, the back half of this book is really good and compelling, and it kept me reading. But one of the main issues people seem to have with this book is the lack of a resolution, and I didn't mind that. I don't need to know if they found a cure. I don't need to know if they even got away safely and got to the mainland. I don't need to know what happened to Byatt. I think it ended pretty well, and I think it was more about how the tox affected these girls. It was more about how they maintained humanity through it, but I feel like that was underdeveloped. I feel like this book needed about 100 more pages, and I know what you're saying. It's already almost 400 pages, but it really did need more, I think, development of the mid to end part. I think the world building at the beginning is okay, but the middle and end needed more detail. It needed more stakes. Again, I know what you're thinking. There were plenty of those, but
I don't know. I just feel like I needed more. So it's only really going to be a 3-star for me, I think. So we were 50-50 split on this, which if you were paying attention at home, and I'll talk about in my final thoughts, works out pretty well when you consider my thoughts on the 2 books that were recommended that I have read. I loved Frankenstein. I could kind of take or leave The Night Circus. So this ended up working out for the best. Now I can hear my dog chasing something in the yard, and I need to get a hold of him before he runs into someone else's yard. So I'm going to go now, and I'll do my final thoughts in a minute. So I'm not going to spend a lot more time on Wilder Girls. It's just safe to say that I didn't necessarily love this the way I wanted to, but I think it had some aspects that I really enjoyed. I would love for Rory Power to write a happy ending for my lesbians, because she did this same shit with Burn Our Bodies Down too, in retrospect. Like, let my girls have a happy ending. I guess this one is at least happier than that one. If you've read Burn Our Bodies Down, you know what I'm talking about. And that was one of the aspects that I really liked in this story. I thought the relationship between the 2 characters in the relationship, I'm not going to say it here in case it's a spoiler for a 2-year-old book, but anything that has their first kiss happening while teaching someone the proper stance for holding a gun, I'm here for it. I'm here for people who mask their feelings through, like, antagonistic behavior. And I think that might actually be a pretty type 4 thing to do. I know that we tend to be more open about our feelings and our emotions, but also that can be overwhelming. So you sometimes shut it off, or you use it the wrong way. Like you use the wrong emotion to deal with a certain aspect. I really joke with people that I don't know how I ended up married to the guy I'm married to, because all we did was roast each other and just talk absolute crap to each other, and we both called that flirting. I actually don't know what type he is, but he is a Cancer and I'm a Pisces. So just do with that information what you will. I did look up some more information about the type 4s, and that's why I'm putting this in final thoughts instead of in the Wilder Girls section. They are defined by their sense of being special and different from other people. They are often creative and present a unique and distinctive persona to the people around them. And that feels like a direct call out, because I've often said to people that I'm able to sort of craft who I am as a person based on the people that I'm currently around. And people would probably call that fakeness, but it's really just an adaptive technique to make sure I am never uncomfortable in a space of people. It's not like I suddenly hang out with people who are awful and become awful in the ways they are. This is more like my high school friends maybe get to know a part of me that my college friends don't know, and my college friends don't get to know the people I work with. Like, they don't all see the same parts of me. They know them, but that's not who I present to them when we hang out. It's really, I think it is like a hermit crab kind of thing, and I just kind of pop out little parts of me at a time, which again, I know it sounds really bad, but I feel like I do that. Sorry if you know me in real life, if you feel like I'm fake now. It says 4's deepest fear is that they are flawed and missing out on some basic aspect of happiness that other people always have access to. To cope with this, they amplify what is different and special about themselves, looking for their niche in which they can be truly appreciated. When I was first in college, I listened to really obscure stuff, and I read things I didn't think other people were reading, and I said things like, well, you've probably never heard of this. And I got called a hipster, and it wasn't that I was a hipster, it's just like I genuinely didn't think people were into the weird shit that I was into. And finding out that people were was really, like, eye-opening for me. It's like, oh, maybe I'm not being shut off for being weird. Maybe I'm being shut off because I'm shutting myself off. So I've at least grown in the 10 years since that happened. One of the more interesting things I did read at the end of this is that type 2s and type 3s and 4s are part of the heart-based triad of the Enneagram. The core emotion of these types is sadness. 4s, 2s, and 3s all struggle with feeling like they cannot be loved for who they are. And this is the really interesting part. This goes back to something I said earlier, and it blew my mind. 4s, however, are the type most likely to embrace this grief rather than repress or feel conflicted over it. Sadness can take on a form of identity for this type. Reading that after the thing I said back when I was reading We Are Okay just clicked something in my head. And maybe that's why a lot of the YAs I like We Are Not Okay, have a sense of grief or loss or working through this loss of identity. And that's why I like them. The one YA contemporary that's hard-hitting that I can think of that I love, that I didn't think of
when I was reading the stuff for We Are Okay is Paper Butterflies by Lisa Heathfield. No one ever talks about this book, but it broke my heart into so many pieces, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to read it again because it was so beautiful and moving. But that one also dealt with a lot of trauma and loss in a very, very realistic way. And I just am drawn to those kind of things. I think it's rewarding as a type 4. I think it is to see that kind of stuff reflected in media and in literature, because it means you're not alone in that. And that is part of the type 4, is the seeking the belonging of, like, I know I'm flawed and I'm weird and I've got some strange stuff going on, but if this person wrote this and I resonate with that and I can see myself in it, then maybe I'm not so strange anymore. Maybe I'm not as weird as I think I am. And I think everyone wants to hear that, but I think type 4s definitely need to hear that. The last thing I looked at was specifically to my wing type, which was 4 wing 5, and it says they share many characteristics with a type 5. They appear more reserved, intellectual, and introspective than other 4s. They seek to understand the world deeply and strive to make an impact within it. They may appear withdrawn and overly focused on the self. Popular careers for them are writing, music, graphic design, and literature. And again, that kind of hit me. I am an English education major, so writing and literature are very big passions of mine. I have worked for about a decade as a printmaker, so I have been in graphic design for a couple of years, and I did have an art degree. So it really is kind of interesting to look at that. And people try to down these things, the Enneagrams, the Myers-Briggs personality types, astrology, and it's like, okay, but yeah, if you are vague enough, anybody can fall into that category. It's like, that's not it though, is it? Because we've been studying some of these things so long, you can notice patterns of behavior in humans. And while humans are kind of erratic sometimes, is not that also like trackable? Can you also not find patterns in that? So I don't know. It's relieving to see this kind of stuff that, oh yeah, I do feel that way and I do act that way. And when I can look at some of the other types and I know I don't act like that and I don't care about those kind of things, when I was watching Kayla's video and talking about type 8s and how she'll go up to somebody and like to work to fix an order, like, no, that order was wrong, we'll get you the right order. I have never in my life done that. I am terrified of any kind of interaction that involves me making someone feel uncomfortable because I am uncomfortable. I will eat the wrong thing and drink the wrong drink so fast to avoid having that interaction with somebody. So it's just, I know that I'm not these other types, so that I have to be a 4. Like, it has to make sense. This has been really fun. I think I'm going to keep looking at other people's videos and lists for type 4 books and see if I can find some more favorites that way. I am also interested in reading the type 8 books because I have not read any of those, I think. And like, you know, Kayla's statistics said, 4s and 8s read the most alike. So that'll be really interesting to look at. So anyway, that's the end of this little mini reading challenge. I'm glad I found a book I really liked. I'm glad I found a book that I sort of liked, because at least I can put Wilder Girls in my classroom library, because I do believe this will be popular with the kids. That body horror is stunning. The plot twists and the like crazy stuff that happens at the end, very nice. So I can see you, like, high schoolers liking that. But anyway, this has been fun. I maybe understand more about myself now. Anyway, this is it. I never know how to end videos, so bye, I guess. I think it's funny that type 4, the individualist, is like what it's called. Like, they're called the individualist. And I'm just thinking about Frankenstein and like Victor creating a person. He's like, oh yes, I am so creative and better than everybody else. I will create something. It's like, and he creates an individual, all right. He creates a big old honking individual, and why? I mean, I guess because you could, but it's just so funny. And then he spends the whole novel being like, I'm gonna take you down. It's like, then why'd you make him 7 foot tall, Victor? Like, go sit down somewhere. Just, like, be a good dad. What the hell? Frankenstein is so good. Please read Frankenstein.